crispy.
Y'all, welcome back to another episode of Figures in Action, and today I bring you a very cool project that was commissioned. So I got contacted by someone on, I believe it was Facebook, who had seen my work, was interested in a diorama. Wasn't sure if he wanted an indoor or an outdoor. At one point he wanted to do half indoor, half outdoor, but the dimensions that he was budgeted for wasn't gonna make the scene look right. So he ultimately suggested just kind of doing kind of the outside entrance of a secret hideout, secret headquarters, secret whatever. So obviously it's a very unique idea. So I started doing some research, and as you can imagine, there's just not a lot that you can find. So you went to the imagination. So this piece here, what I envision is that there's rocks and mountains all around this, and you hit a little trail, and you end up here. But above this, there's more rocks and more mountainside. So what I needed to find a way to make. Well, first of all, let's skip the dimensions real quick. So we're looking at 16 inches across. We're looking at 16 inches across, right there. 12 inches deep, or excuse me, 11 inches deep, 12 inches tall. And again, the challenge was how do you make a secret how do you make a secret entrance, or an entrance to a secret hideaway. So my first thought was, all right, well, let's make it half kind of mountainside. That was part of the discussion I had. And how was I going to create that? So the easiest way actually to create that is if you get a hot wire tool, then you're able to manipulate insulation foam board way better. I didn't have that tool. I literally went to 2 or 3 stores. They didn't have it. I could have ordered it online. Just didn't have the time, so I just said, well, let me figure something out. So what I did is, this part here is basically, so if you take a 1-inch foam board, or 1-inch insulation foam board, right? Let's say I cut it here all the way across. Then what I did is I cut it in half, and it's not the easiest thing to do in the world, which is why you can kind of see the seam here, where I was doing it in sections that big. So basically, cut in between them, kind of measure them half an inch, cut in between them, and then the result is that look, which I definitely thought came out really good. Then I wanted to see, how do you incorporate kind of a hideout. A lot of times you just can't. I guess you can, but in my mind I was like, well, if it's going to be a hideout, make sure it's reinforced, make sure it's strong. So I put the cinder blocks there. Again, in my mind, there's more mountainside here and more mountainside there, and this is just like this little gap that you walk into, and just go into this hideout. So it was funny because as I'm going through this journey and I'm going through this dio, it wasn't till these beams were painted and put on that it really made it pop. Because it's gray, it's not the easiest, but I also can't, because it's a hideout, I can't make it like red. I can't make it anything that can be captured from by the eyes from a mile away. So I had to come up with a color that was a little more neutral. So I figured that green, which I've used before, I love that green. It's like a pale green. I think it's by Apple Barrel, I believe, but it's one of my favorite colors for industrial type of paintings. And so came up with the beams. These little things are actually they're sheets, and they're like half pearls, you know what I mean? So they have sticky stuff on the back, so I just stuck them, each one I sanded them down, stuck them, didn't reinforce it with hot glue, just the sticky stuff it came with. Figured that the black paint the black wash and then the two coats of that green would strengthen it, so that would be okay. So I'm happy with that. Happy how that came out. Just threw in a little bit of brown to make it look a little rusty. Said I'd do an electrical box. So there's an electrical box that's just not open to. You just can't open it. You know what I mean? This is just kind of the power source for that to open up. It's a really heavy door, so no, excuse me, not to open up, but to bolt it down. It's a heavy door and it's thick, and you can just kind of put the bolts through there. Did a couple modular rocks. Thought that would be a good idea to not make them permanent. These are permanent, obviously. Permanent, but these you can move around, so you can put wherever he'd like, which is kind of cool. So you get those modular rocks. The door, originally I told him that the door was going to be permanent, but I decided to not make it permanent. Honestly, the main reason, because I've seen that lately he's been getting on Facebook a lot, on the ACBA page on Facebook, and he's been posing and he's been doing his thing. So I figured if I included a door that you can just kind of take out, then it gives him an option for more pictures. If he wanted to commission someone to do a base for him, this can be the entrance to the base, so you have the measurements of the door. So I figured it'd be a good idea to not make the door permanent. So I was definitely happy with that. For the most part, most of this is just a lot of texturing. You know, obviously when you cut this, it gives you the automatically kind of gives you that texture. So it's just a matter of black washing it, and then once you start putting in the dry brush, it kind of gives it the effect. This is kind of the same deal as this, where I took foam board and I split it in half. So this is half an inch, and again, by splitting it in half, it's not sticking out as much, and it's a little more kind of uniform to this look. This here is just you know how when you get stuff on cardboard backs, but they have that plastic. This is just a piece of plastic, you know, and I painted it, sanded it down so it can add the paint can adhere better to it. Gave it a black wash, painted it a couple different grays, some rust. This is just the piping that, you know, everyone across the board uses, which is the do-it-yourself straw. The sets can be found anywhere from Walmart to the dollar store. I've seen them at Walgreens, you know, a little more expensive, but I've seen them all over the place. The great thing too about this design is that it allowed me to just glue the pipe directly to the wall, because I know that even when when you take this wall out, it's still protected by this. Therefore, it's really difficult for it to be dislodged. A lot of times the reason that I kind of clamp down the piping is just because of that. Like, you know, something can lean on it, something can fall on it, it'll just snap the piping off. Or something like this, it wouldn't. Which worked out pretty good. It was funny because I was telling Joanne yesterday how when I was building this, I actually I didn't do this long enough, so there was like this little gap there, and all I did for the gap was just, you know, painted it and whatever. And then I was like, yo, the pipe will fit in there, I hope, and it fit in there perfectly, and it looks like it belonged, like I designed it that way. Nope, mistake, but it worked out. Here is an articulated icon action figure for scale. Man, this dude always falls on me. I'm always trying to get him to stand up before I have the video, and he's all good. And then, so anyway, let's put this door. Let's put it. That's there for now. So that's kind of the scale of the action figure in place of the dial. So yeah, so basically, same situation as all the dials that I create. Fully magnetized. You can take off this wall, you can take off the back wall, and put it all together and make it complete. So once everything is said and done, it's not stacked up much taller than an action figure. Easy to put away, easy to ship, and that is the purpose. Somebody just asked me recently too, like, you know, why do you magnetize your dials? And that's kind of the purpose, is so that they're easy to ship and they're easy to put away when you don't want them. You know, for the most part, I wouldn't leave a dial unless it's in a detail. I pretty much wouldn't leave a dial on top of the shelf, just because the dust that it's going to collect is going to be crazy. And then when you try to dust it off, you're not going to get into certain corners, and you might chip some of the foam. You know, so it's just, I try to put my dial, or I do put my dials away if I'm not using them. So this is kind of the idea behind it, is that if you're done using it, you can just stack them up, put them somewhere in a closet, out of the way, and you're good to go. And this is it, y'all. So this was definitely a fun project, and I still have two more to go, two more to go before I go to Vegas in like 9 days. So it's gonna be some hectic moving, but we got this, man. We got this, and I'm out. Peace.